I'm Christine Teal.
We're going to be talking about dyslexia.
So some people think that dyslexia is just people being lazy, but that's not necessarily what it is.
And it's a real thing, and we're going to talk about what it is. So watch this video next.
Take a moment to read the following. How was that? Frustrating? Slow? What were those sentences about? They're actually a simulation of the experience of dyslexia, designed to make you decode each word. Those with dyslexia experience that laborious pace every time they read. When most people think of dyslexia, they think of seeing letters and words backwards, like seeing B as D and vice versa, or they might think people with dyslexia see saw as was. The truth is, people with dyslexia see things the same way as everyone else. Dyslexia is caused by a phonological processing problem, meaning people affected by it have trouble not with seeing language, but with manipulating it. For example, if you heard the word cat and then someone asked you, remove the C, what word would you have left? At. This can be difficult for those with dyslexia. Given a word in isolation like fantastic, students with dyslexia need to break the word into parts to read it. Fan-tas-tic. Time spent decoding makes it hard to keep up with peers and gain sufficient comprehension. Spelling words phonetically like S-T-I-K for stick and F-R-E-N-S for friends is also common. These difficulties are more widespread and varied than commonly imagined. Dyslexia affects up to 1 in 5 people. It occurs on a continuum. One person might have mild dyslexia, while the next person has a profound case of it. Dyslexia also runs in families. It's common to see one family member who has trouble spelling, while another family member has severe difficulty decoding even one-syllable words like catch. The continuum and distribution of dyslexia suggest a broader principle to bear in mind as we look at how the brains of those with dyslexia process language. Neurodiversity is the idea that because all our brains show differences in structure and function, we shouldn't be so quick to label every deviation from the norm as a pathological disorder, or dismiss people living with these variations as defective. People with neurobiological variations like dyslexia, including such creative and inventive individuals as Picasso, Muhammad Ali, Whoopi Goldberg, Steven Spielberg, and Cher, clearly have every capacity to be brilliant and successful in life. So here's the special way the brains of those with dyslexia work. The brain is divided into 2 hemispheres. The left hemisphere is generally in charge of language and ultimately reading, while the right typically handles spatial activities. fMRI studies have found that the brains of those with dyslexia rely more on the right hemisphere and frontal lobe than the brains of those without it. This means when they read a word, it takes a longer trip through their brain and can get delayed in the frontal lobe. Because of this neurobiological glitch, they read with more difficulty. But those with dyslexia can physically change their brain and improve their reading. With an intensive multisensory intervention that breaks the language down and teaches the reader to decode based on syllable types and spelling rules, the brains of those with dyslexia begin using the left hemisphere more efficiently while reading, and their reading improves. The intervention works because it locates dyslexia appropriately, as a functional variation in the brain, which naturally shows all sorts of variations from one person to another. Neurodiversity emphasizes this spectrum of brain function in all humans and suggests that to better understand the perspectives of those around us, we should try to not only see the world through their eyes, but understand it through their brains.
So some common signs for those with dyslexia who haven't started school yet are that they may have difficulties pronouncing words, or recalling words whenever they are having a conversation. They may have trouble learning the alphabet or numbers, colors, the day of the week. Their fine motor skills may develop more slowly than those who are of similar age group, and they may have trouble blending sounds or separating words.
Students who are in elementary school, some of the signs that you see in them are difficulty decoding single syllable words. Also, they make consistent reading and spelling errors. Also, some may transpose number sequences and confuse arithmetic signs in mathematics. These students may be slow to learn new skills, and they rely a lot on memorizing things, but they don't understand what they're memorizing. Students may be slow to learn the connection between their letters and their sounds, and oftentimes students have an awkward pencil grip.
Okay, so some material accommodations that you may want to use for your students with dyslexia are a tape recorder. So you can use a tape recorder to record your teaching or have them record themselves for an assignment. You also can simplify your written directions, so only have the necessary materials. Also, if you highlight essential information and block out excessive information, that could make it easier for your students with dyslexia. Also, having audiobooks available for them and dictation software would be really beneficial for your students with dyslexia.
When teachers teach their lessons, these are some very helpful accommodations that they can use. There's explicit teaching procedures. So when teachers teach, they're going to be very explicit in how they give directions. There's also repeating directions so that the students know exactly what they're supposed to do. Step-by-step instructions are helpful in laying out what the student needs to accomplish in the lesson. A lot of times using verbal and visual information simultaneously will help draw the point across to the students with dyslexia. Writing key points and keywords on a smartboard are also very helpful, as well as graphic organizers to help them see what you're saying.
Okay, so some performance accommodations that you may want your students to use. You can change the response mode, so have different ways for them to show their competency in certain areas. You can have students turn line paper vertically for math, and if you're going to have essay questions, you can have multiple essay questions, like options, not questions, and provide lined paper so it's easier for them to write down the words. And you should have your students circle true or false questions instead of having to write a T or an F, because those letters are very similar and it's easy to mix them up. And you should avoid wordy questions on any exams that you have or questions. You should have students avoid drawing lines to connect their matches because it's easy for them to get the lines mixed up. And you don't want to count out for spelling unless, of course, you are assessing spelling.
Okay. Finally, students with dyslexia have great strengths. They are very curious and insightful. They also are very perceiving and are able to think multidimensionally, so they use all of their senses while they're thinking. So these students are able to recognize patterns and connections easily. A lot of times they have superior reasoning, and they have simultaneous multiple thought processing, so they're able to think through a lot of things at the same time. And also, they're really creative.